It's like that. Keeping
It wasn't like that with ACDC, of course.
right.
They only did about 3 or 4 gigs a week, something like that. But it was continuous.
Like, let's say playing drums, at the level you're playing. I mean, it's really hard on the system, I'm sure. How do you keep fit, to play at fast pace and hard hitting and just always right there on the spot playing? Great.
It's because I play drums. That's what keeps me fit. It's the playing of the drums that keeps me the way I am. So,
do you recall, like, let's say playing on like the Ed Sullivan Show and how great that was for you, and that eventually it just keep on getting bigger and bigger, your career?
It's funny. My missus said to me, "Did you ever play the Ed Sullivan Show with Tom Jones?" And I said, "No." And then this springs up on YouTube. There's me playing on the Ed Sullivan Show with Tom Jones. So it's, I've always had sort of a sketchy memory, to be honest, all my life. So I remember doing some TV shows with Tom, but that obviously didn't sit with me. But there I'm on screen playing Ed Sullivan Show.
Now that's something you should be pretty surprised seeing yourself on the Ed Sullivan Show, since you don't recall playing it. It should be something.
It was really surprising. I went, oh God. And there's lots of things like that I can't recall, if you like. But as I say, I've always been that way. It's not like a thing with age or anything like that.
It could be too, when you're doing so much stuff, it just keeps on going and don't look back and just plow through.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, on to the next one, right. To quote Dave Grohl.
Mm-hmm. Like, going back, and looking at your career, Blinded by the Light, let's take this one for instance. It's a song that's been heard so many times. When you hear it on the radio, what do you think of it? Like, what's your take? Like, being on it.
It's fantastic. We had great fun, if you like, if that's the word, making it at the time. It came about because a journalist gave us, when I say us, me and Manfred, copies of Greetings from Asbury Park. And I thought Springsteen was fantastic. And Manfred went away. We met a few weeks later, and he came up with the arrangement with the clink clink piano and all that, because as you know, it's completely different to Springsteen's version.
Right.
And we had great fun putting it together. We as a band, as Earth Band, put it together. It wasn't just Manfred Mann. It was all of us collectively. We all put ideas in. And the chopsticks in the middle was my idea, which Manfred admits to in interviews. And he thought it was quite surreal and innovative to do that. And it seemed to fit.
Do you even recall the production being made, and seeing how the drums would, change drum history sound? Because it is pretty Chris Slade on there. It's solid.
Yeah, if you're talking about, well, it's always that way, to be honest. Can't do it any other way. And we went to, if you're talking about the album version, We went to half time in the solo. When Timeline do it live now, we just plow through it. We don't go half time. We keep it more of a disco feel, if you like.
Okay.
Which seems to work quite well. And I think maybe we should have done the album track more like that. But we're very pleased with the way it ended up anyway. So yeah, that's a great what's the word, milestone in my career, actually.
And Chris Slade's Timeline, let's say for the 10th anniversary tour, when we go back through, excuse me, the career of this, group, where did you find the band members to get into this and do a great?
I've known some of them for quite a long time, longer than 10 years, probably more like 20, when they were quite young as musicians. They were still in school, actually. I knew them when they had a band together. And of course I was asked to go along and see what I thought of them. And I thought they were fantastic then. That's the core of the band, if you like, the guitarist, keyboard player, and bass player. In fact, current bass player. We just recently changed our bass player, and it's that guy that I went along to see 20 years ago when he was still a school kid. And the singers are older. They are mid-30s, those guys. The singers are older and more mature, shall I say.
So playing with a great band, and playing venues in 2022, in COVID times, should be very good and a great feeling for you, to be touring back. What's your take on, being in lockdowns and not, performing and stuff like that, and now being back on the stage?
Yes, there was a year just about doing nothing whatever, which was really terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so nice now to have shows and be playing shows right now. So it feels great. I was very surprised how easy the gigs were to get back into it. So yeah, I think it's just great. I'm very happy to play the music, not only ACDC. We have an ACDC singer, if you like, a singer that just does the ACDC, and we have the singer that does the other material, like Uriah Heep and Earth Band and stuff like that. So I was very surprised how easy it was. Everybody remembered all the music, and yeah, including myself, which I'm very surprised at. So it's wonderful to be in demand, if you like. We've just been asked to go to South America.
Wow.
So we, of course, would love to come to Canada.
Canada's the place you got to play. I mean, we need to see Chris Slade's Timeline in Canada. Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. I think you told Christine of somebody you might suggest. Is that right?
That's correct. And we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, yeah. Because often with the States, it's visas is the problem.
Right.
With Canada and Britain, there's no visas. So it's, we'd love to do that, you know, we must get it together.
That's true. And let's say with all this, when you're going to be touring, let's say Canada and going South America, that's going to be a mission and a half, you know. That's a lot of voyage. How's that in your time, you know, touring, you know, let's say with ACDC on the plane and always going place to place? That should be exhausting sometimes, and then performing on stage the same night.
Yeah, but it's like we're used to it. It's, you know, it can be exhausting, yes, but you try not to do too much at one time, you know,
Right.
so that you are exhausted. You get tired, put it that way. I don't think exhausted gets us, but, you know, I went to Brazil not so long back, a few years ago, on my own without ACDC. And that was fantastic, you know? So I'm looking forward to going back there with the band, because I went on my own that time and played drums without the band.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be very, very happy to go places like Canada. One of my sons lives in Canada, by the way, lives in Calgary.
Oh, wow.
Him and his family. Yeah.
That's very good. And good,
yeah,
good reason to come to Canada to go and visit.
Yeah, right. He's a drummer too.
Okay.
Both
what
my
band?
No, he's not in the band at the moment. Both my sons are drummers, and they're not in the band right now. I don't think many bands could survive this COVID thing, you know, the lockdown and all that, because it does take a lot of money to run a band, you know.
Right.
And if you're sort of part-time, if you see what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to go. You're not going to go anywhere, you know. We were lucky that when we had, Timeline was lucky that when there were gaps in the lockdown, you know, when the government said you can travel now, or, you know, you must wear your masks or whatever, we were lucky. We went to Germany, France and Italy. So we were very lucky to keep going like that when we could.
Chris, let's say, you know, this is a question a lot of people, you know, I've seen your interview of the ACDC interview, etc. But let's say go back on the two bass drums on the side.
Uh-huh.
That in itself is like incredible. And the amount of energy you got to push into that. Like, let's say when we watch you live at Donington with ACDC, you're like really hitting this stuff hard. How much energy does it take, you know, to play bass drums like that? And, you know, how thick of the skins are. And because, I mean, it's got to take damage on the skins too when you're hitting bass drums.
Yeah, it's not a problem, to be honest. Drummers will understand this, you know. Do you play yourself?
Yes, I do actually.
All right. Is it rock?
Yeah. Oh yeah, some Chris Slade type of stuff, of course.
Well, you know, I've always slammed them. You know, that's just the way I play. I can't play any other way. And to me, it's just normal. I started off playing jazz when I was very young, like early teens, because I was listening to it and playing it. So I suppose that's where my technique comes from. The days of, and then of course it was Sandy Nelson with Let There Be Drums. And there were a few drum-led things back in the late 50s, early 60s. So I didn't know any different. I just banged them hard, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I could play jazz quietly. I couldn't play that quiet now. But what I'm saying is my technique was learned listening to jazz.
Okay.
Jazz drummers, shall I say, like Buddy Rich and people like that, Gene Krupa, because there were no drummers in pop music, or no featured drummers anyway. Of course, the guys that made the records, like Rock Around the Clock, what a great drum track.
Mm.
And he was a jazz player who was inventing rock and roll, you know?
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Oh, I think they'll play like this. So that rim shot that he does on that record, absolute fantastic. And it's like, what's he going to do in this track, you know? And I'll try this sort of shuffle thing. And they invented it, those guys, you know, in the 50s. Brilliant. And all that's happened is we've got louder, and technique has got much, much better.
Mm-hmm.
Drum technique, I mean. And the music has got better as far as I'm concerned. I love big band stuff, by the way, still. I got to play with the Count Basie Orchestra in the 60s, back in Tom Jones.
Okay.
We did a whole tour for about 6 months and played the Madison Square Gardens with the Count Basie Orchestra. And I got to play that, which was like unbelievable, magic.
And when you do look at your style of playing, certainly, let's say on the Ed Sullivan Show, which you are featured and it shows you, it's like incredible that the drums, you know, add so much to Tom Jones in itself, and that, you know, a lot of people don't realize you were the drummer, and maybe nowadays people might check out Tom Jones again and like realize, oh my God, this drumming is Chris Slade and his incredible jazz style drums, you know, rolls, etc.
Yeah, I can't remember it now, to be honest. I will have a look as soon as we finish this interview. But there's a thing on YouTube. There's a thing on YouTube, Tom Jones, and I think it's called Beat Room.
Okay.
It's a BBC Two thing. And I was 19, I think, at the time. It's when we first moved to London as a band, the Squires, Tom Jones and the Squires. And there's 2 songs. One is called Chills and Fever, which was our first record, Tom Jones and the Squires. And the second one is What I Say, the Ray Charles song, What I Say. And I'm very pleased with that. It just shows what I was doing at 19 years old. And if you watch it, you'll see what I mean.
Mm-hmm. I shall check that out.
Yeah, I'm quite proud of that. I'm not particularly proud of Chills and Fever, but I'm proud of What I Say.
I'll make sure to check it. And let's say, you know, meeting the king of rock and roll. I mean, we see that famous picture of you How was that? Do you recall meeting Elvis Presley?
Oh, yeah. I don't recall the 60s. My mother told me I was there. But yeah, that was the only night in my life, that I had a Beatle haircut.
Okay.
He was, I'm trying to think I think we, Tom Jones and the Squires, were playing in Las Vegas at the Flamingo. And I think he came to see Tom. That was it. He just came to see Tom, quite literally. They had met before. Tom had gone to meet him when he was making a film somewhere in LA, probably. And cheek, if you like, we asked if we could have a picture. It was just, I think it was just me and Tom, I think. I don't think any of the other, there were no other band members there.
Yep, just you and Tom.
Yeah. And we did hang out a bit with him. That wasn't the first time, but it was the first time he said, "Oh, can we have a picture?" You know. So, and it was about 2 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And all the Elvis and all his Memphis Mafia were there, you know, so-called, you know, his entourage.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very nice time. He's not at all loud or, you know, he played some records and we had some drinks and some sandwiches, and that was it, really.
Mm-hmm.
But my God, Elvis Presley is like, wow. It's just, that was quite unbelievable. And a few years later, actually, he offered me a job playing drums.
Wow. What happened?
Yeah, really. Tom's manager got all over it and wouldn't allow it. It went on for weeks or months, even, with Joe Esposito, who was Elvis's right-hand man. I was talking to him on a regular basis. I was still on tour with Tom. And he offered me the job. I, of course, said yes. Then it went on, the tour, Tom's tour went on and on, longer and longer. And he kept saying, "Oh, well, it's not going to happen, is it?" You know, it's like, "Oh, yeah, we'll make it happen." So it came to rehearsal time. I said, "Look, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to make rehearsal because they've put more dates in yet again." And he said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll get somebody in to dep for you." This is a true story, but I'm not making this up. And I said, "Okay." So another call. He said, "Oh, we've got a drummer to sit in for you." And of course, that was Ronnie Tutt. And then it went on even more. I don't think Ronnie even knows this. We'd never met. And it carried on some more. And it's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I can't even make the first date now." No, they said, "No, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have you and Ronnie Tutt play together." Which would have been incredible. I knew of Ronnie from his work with Andy Williams' show on TV. And he is a great player, great drummer. And as I say, he probably doesn't even know that this was happening. I've seen interviews with him, and I'm sure he doesn't know. So it was going to be me and Ronnie playing together for Elvis, and then more dates. Couldn't make originally it was for just a month in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like a big commitment, you know, which it turned into.
Okay.
For Ronnie and all the other guys. But unfortunately, I did not. It's like, sorry, Elvis, I'm busy.
Wow.
Which is terrible. It's the biggest regret of my professional career, actually,
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't get to play with Elvis when Ash do.
Yeah. And that's incredible, the way you've even explained it. To beat the drummer for Elvis, that's pretty exciting.
Oh, it would have been. And I'm quite sure that Tom's manager, because he knew Colonel Parker. I'm sure he went and said, "You can't nick our drummer," you know.
Yeah.
So I think that was in the mix there somewhere.
You know, speaking of legends, like in that sense, did you ever meet, or why weren't you the drummer of the Beatles, let's say?
Why wasn't I? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like did you meet the Beatles before, and you could have been the drummer?
No, we were miles apart. They were in Liverpool. We were in London. It's you know, they would always go for a Liverpool drummer.
Yeah.
Ringo's great. We worked on the same bill as them, maybe 2 or 3 times, but the one which was significant is there was a newspaper called the New Musical Express, and every year they had a pop poll for the best acts, and Tom was on that, and the Rolling Stones was on that, and the Beatles, all on the same bill in Wembley Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry and the Pacemakers, you name it, Dusty Springfield, anybody who was anybody in the pop world. It was the pop world then. And we were beat groups. We weren't even pop groups, we were beat groups. So in the 70s, it changed to being bands. We called ourselves bands, but it wasn't until the 70s.
Okay.
But the Beatles, the Stones came on, they were okay. And then the Beatles came on and they swung like hell. That's all I can tell you. So, you know, Ringo was a really swinging drummer.
Mm-hmm.
He's still going, I believe, with his own band.
Yeah, he is still going.
Yeah, and I know almost all his drummers too. You know, it's great to have connection with people like that.
And it's like,
I've met him myself.
Okay.
I've met McCartney. I'm trying to think if I met him myself. I think I did when he played in America with his band in the desert. Where was it in the desert? But anyway, don't matter. I didn't get to meet him then, but I met all of them in the 60s, mid 60s.
Wow. It's like that. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. It's a real big honor. You're a legendary drummer. The people recognize you, and you're playing again, and that's great with tour, Chris Slade Timeline. I'm really happy to see this. I want to see it live, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people going to see your shows. But just
Yeah, I hope we meet up that way, Jason. I really do.
me too. And it's like, just keep up doing the great work. Your YouTube videos, or you performing, you're legendary on YouTube. People get to see you every night, every day. You know, how many hours you think people watch you? It's like hundreds of thousands of hours every week, let's say, on YouTube statistics.
And it brings its amount of trolls as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, you know, what's he playing ACDC for? Should be Phil Rudd, you know?
Yeah.
And of course it should be, you know? But he wasn't available at the time.
Yeah. And it happened that you went, and you were the drummer, and that's great.
Yeah, you can never argue with the original player in any band. People get very upset when the band changes, you know, when you get a new bass player or a new singer or a new drummer.
Yeah.
They get very upset because it belongs to them, of course. And as far as they're concerned, it's not the same drummer. Brian Johnson still gets called the new fella by some people. He's been in the band 40 years. He's still, and I saw some super fans the other day, ACDC super fans. Saw them in France. They came to see Timeline. They love it. And they want Tom Jones material, not ACDC so much. I saw them, and you know, they say, "Oh, you know, don't bother about it. Don't worry," you know. But those trolls, they're terrible with everybody. I really think trolls are the pits, shall we say.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like that. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me, and Chris Slade Timeline 10th anniversary tour. I mean, just I wish you so much luck and success in this. And
yeah,
it's
thank you.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much. You know, I think I'll ask Christine to send you the members of the band. Would that be okay?
That's absolutely great.
Good one. All right, Jason, it's been really nice talking to you, I must say. I mean that.
Thank you.
And as I say, hopefully we'll meet in Canada. Where are you based, by the way? Toronto?
I'm in Nova Scotia.
Oh, right. Yes, I remember that now. Of course.
Atlantic, yeah.
Oh, my son goes there on holiday quite a lot.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well.
Right. Well, thanks a lot. And if you can put a word in with the agent, I think it's Wendy somebody, isn't it?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And we'll get in touch with Christine. We'll get in touch with her because we would love to do this. For
sure. And it's like that. I'll keep on messaging you guys. So you guys have a great weekend, and see you sometime.
Will do. Okay. All the best.
All the best.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye for now.
Bye.